Hey, what is going on everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and today I'm going to be showing you, well, a much requested and long awaited tutorial on the original Xbox. I'm going to be showing you specifically if you have a soft-modded Xbox, how you can upgrade the hard drive in it using Chimp, the latest build of whichever it is. So for this, you're going to need a few things. First of all, this is going to assume you have a soft-modded Xbox, and I'm going to be assuming here that you have watched at least one of my tutorials. I have a few at this point here. One of them is showing you how to install it using Softmod Installer Deluxe. The other one, which I highly recommend using more so, would be using Rocky 5's Xbox soft modding tool, which is what this Xbox here has been soft modded with. Now, as you can see from the top left corner, this is just a stock hard drive system. We have about 5 gigabytes or so free, just over 5 gigs. So this is just the default hard drive on here. And again, it is soft modded, so you have to go about this a specific way. So I'm going to be showing you what all you'll need, the tools and such, and then we're going to be upgrading this thing to a much bigger 160 gigabyte drive. So first of all the links I'm going to show you here will be down below in the description, but I would recommend at first going to your Xbox hard drive compatibility chart, and this might be assuming that you have a hard drive on hand right now that you want to upgrade to. One thing I need to explain to you all is locking of hard drives. If you have a soft modded Xbox, not a hard modded one, a soft modded Xbox, you have to get a hard drive which is lockable, and you have to lock it to your system at the end of the process. If you do not lock your drive, or you unlock the drive while you're using your system, when you boot it up the next time, you will get a hard drive error. You will probably get an error 5 or something. So in short, you have to get a hard drive which is lockable. So from here, you're going to need to match your hard drive, the one you're going to be using. Now, I already know the model I'm using. I have it right here. So what I did was I just looked for the Western Digital brand, which is what I'm using, and this is the exact model. And as you can see, it's a 160 gigabyte 720 RPM drive, and right here, most confirmed reports are that it is locking. Actually, the only ones, well, aside from this, are like some of them are different models, but for the most part, this is locking just fine. I know for a fact this one locks because I just tried it about an hour ago. So you need to make sure your drive is locking on here. Again, I have to stress this, you cannot just go out and grab a random drive and hope it's gonna work. I guess you can do that, but if you grab a random drive, there's a good chance that it's not going to be locking. So now let's talk about the hard drives that you will need. So since the original Xbox is IDE, this is a IDE based drive. And for that, you're also going to need to power 2 drives at the same time. So there's multiple different ways you can do it. I'm going to be doing it a slightly different way, but the way most people choose to do it here are by using a Y-splitter Molex adapter. Essentially what they do is the Molex cable, which comes from the Xbox's power supply, they hook up into the left side here, and then right here you plug one end into your current hard drive and the other end goes into your hard drive you want to install. So right here I'm also showing the hard drive that I had purchased. Now I purchased this initially not even knowing that it was lockable, so I guess I kind of got lucky here, but it is a IDE based hard drive. The next thing though, if you do a SATA drive, is first of all make sure that your SATA hard drive is on the list here, the compatibility list. And then if you're upgrading to a SATA drive, there's 2 other components that you need. First of all, you're going to need this 80 wire IDE cable. The reason being is that the cable that comes with the original Xbox is only 40 wires, and it's not enough for SATA. Many times if you hook up a SATA drive using the 40 wire cable, you're going to run into issues, or it's just point blank not going to work. So you need to upgrade yours to a 80 wire cable. I'm not going to do this on mine because again, I'm just going with the IDE route. I'm going from an IDE drive to another IDE drive, and IDE drives for the most part work just fine. If you're doing SATA though, again, you will need the 80 wire IDE cable, and on top of that, you're also going to need one of these adapters. Now there's many different ones that people recommend. A lot of people want to stay away from these cheaper ones. Personally, I've had no issue using them. That's just me. I've used many of them and they've been fine, but there's two things you need to look for. First of all, as you can see where it has the two capacitors right here, you want one that has two capacitors above where the IDE ribbon is supposed to connect into. And if you look at the top left here, you also need to get one which has a selectable jumper right there. So what you can do is, let's say you're doing this using SATA, I'm not, but when you set this up, you need to move that jumper to slave. And then when you're done imaging your drive at the end of the process, when you actually install it in your Xbox as the permanent drive, you need to change that jumper back to master. That's going to be very important. So again, this is going to assume that you have everything. You have your hard drive here, which is what I have. You have some way of powering on your second hard drive on the Xbox. Again, this is a good method of doing it. I'm not going to do that because I have essentially I have a external adapter that I'm going to choose to use because it's just easier for me. Another alternative, if you have a second Xbox laying around, you could power that one on and just hook up the Molex adapter there to your second hard drive. But make sure when you do that, if you do that with a second Xbox, you have a audio video cable plugged into it so the Xbox does not turn off. So there's a few ways of doing it if you want to get creative. So again, this is going to assume you have the hard drive, you've matched up the hard drive on this list, you have a way of powering it, and the extra steps if you're doing a SATA drive, you need to get the 80-pin IDE cable, or 80-wire IDE cable, excuse me, and you need to get one of these adapters. Not even this specific one, but if you get one of these, generally the ones with the two capacitors are great, and make sure your adapter has the ability to switch between master and slave, because that's going to be important. So now as for the actual software, I'm going to recommend, again, using the latest version of Chimp, specifically the one that comes with Rocky V's Xbox Softmodding tool. Now, you can transfer this a few different ways. The way I'm going to do it is, if you followed my previous tutorial on the Xbox Softmodding tool, you might have burned a extras disk. I'm going to show you all how to do that real quick because I'm going to choose to install it from a DVD. So for this, if you're doing it my way, you just need to go to his link down below in the description, go to clone or download, and download the zip file. Once you download the zip file, right click and extract it somewhere and wait a few seconds. Double click the folder that's created, go down to build xiso, and let that run for a few seconds. Now, if you're one of the people who is following this who has not modified your system using the Xbox Softmodding tool, that's fine, you can still follow along with this. However, I would recommend, if you have softmodded your system using something such as Softmod Installer Deluxe or something that wasn't Rocky V's tool, I'd recommend following my tutorial showing you all how to use this disk to upgrade your existing softmod to the Rocky V softmod. With all of that being done though, what you can do is now take that ISO image and burn it using your favorite program. I'm personally going to use Image Burn. So for that, I can just open it up and everything shows up here. And when you do this, just make sure, as you can see, my supported write speeds are 2.4 and 8x. Burn it at the lowest possible speed onto a DVD disc and click write. I'm not going to be doing this step because I've already burned a disk which we will be using, but with all of that done, now you can move back over to the Xbox to transfer over Chimp. Once you're over at your Xbox, take your disk, pop it into the system, and launch disk. Once you're here, all you need to do is go to the advanced menu, enter menu, go down to advanced apps, go to Chimp 261812, press A on that, and install Chimp, press yes, and wait a few seconds. And now that's done. So what you can do is take this disk out and turn off your Xbox. So first of all, to perform some surgery on the system here, yes, we do have to open it up. For this, you do need to remove a few screws and move a few things to get everything sorted on here. First of all, in order to do this, you're going to need a T20 or Torx 20 bit. So make sure you have a kit available and make sure you have, the sizes will be Torx 10, 15, and 20. First, take your T20 bit and you're going to remove these 6 screws. There is 1 screw under each of these rubber pads right here, which you can just remove by kind of bringing that back halfway and remove each one. And there's 1 screw right here under each sticker, which you can kind of just puncture and remove that way. Next up are the T10 screws. There's going to be 1 T10 screw on the right side of the DVD drive inside there. There's going to be a left one on this side, and there's going to be one right here underneath this IDE ribbon cable. So remove all 3 of those. Once that's done, you can start freeing the Molex cable for your hard drive and also start removing this big black piece which contains the hard drive. Right here, it's going to be kind of put into this lip. So you want to pull all 4 of those cables out so you have a bit of freedom to work with. And I'm not going to fully show this, but mainly here on this side there are 2 T15 screws, and on the other side there's another 2 T15 screws underneath here. You are going to need to remove those once it's time to swap out this hard drive. However, we're not going to be doing that yet. So there's kind of a method that you need to use to comfortably get this all done, because you are going to be performing something called a hot swap, which means that you're going to have the hard drive hooked up and you're going to have to unplug the IDE ribbon cable from the DVD drive and plug it into your new hard drive while you have all of this set up here. So the way I can kind of recommend doing this is to take your hard drive, kind of elevate it up like so. Something like that will work out. This is going to look like a mess while you're doing it, but trust me, in the end it's fine. And then you can remove the DVD drive and kind of fit it somewhere like that. I want to make sure everything is also flat or somewhat flat while doing this. But something like that would work, or even if it's a little bit slanted, it's fine. So now when it comes to the setup, in order to remove this 4 Molex cable in the back, it's honestly going to be easiest to unscrew the hard drive here. So you just unscrew the hard drive, you can pop it out, and then once the hard drive is free, you can actually remove the 4 Molex adapter right there. And then what you can do is inside of that, you can plug in your Y-splitter and then plug in one end into this hard drive and plug in the other into your other hard drive, or plug it into your adapter. Now for this method, I'm going to be using, again, this hard drive, and I'm going to be using this here. And this is just a way to hook up an internal hard drive to your computer using USB 3.0. The reason why I'm going to be doing this is because I just have this available and it's a lot easier for me to use this. I will have this linked down below in the description, but quite honestly, I don't recommend using this because for this purpose, it's complete overkill. I'm just using this because I own it and I've used it for other things. But if this is all you're going to use it for, I don't recommend purchasing it. So what I'm going to do for this is, again, let's get everything kind of situated like that. There we go. I've flipped the Xbox around to make this look a little bit easier, but what you'll need to do is, again, you're going to need to have your method of powering this up. If you're using an external method, I'd recommend turning on the hard drive before you turn on the Xbox. And then here, you could just put your hard drive on top of the DVD drive like this. If your hard drive came with an anti-static bag like this, I would recommend putting that between the two. If you don't have it, I've seen plenty of people do this without using the anti-static bag, and it's fine, but I'm just going to use the anti-static bag for that because it's going to be a little bit safer. But what you'll need to do is, when I tell you all to do this in the dashboard, you only have about 4 or 5 seconds or so to do this, and I'd recommend while the Xbox is off getting some practice doing this. But at one point, you're going to turn on the system, you're going to have this hard drive here, and just sit in the dashboard for a little bit. And before you run Chimp, you're going to need to hot swap. So you need to disconnect this IDE ribbon and connect it to your new hard drive. What that entails is you need to unplug this cable, which is a little difficult to do. Unplug it like so, and then plug it in to your hard drive. And then from there, you can run Chimp and continue on with the install. So for this, I am going to unplug it from the hard drive again and plug it back into the DVD drive. I recommend if you've never done this before, get a feel for it and get some practice doing this a few times while your system's completely off, because again, you have a few seconds to do it and you want to make sure you're not damaging anything in the process. But once you're all comfortable and situated, go back over, hook up your Xbox with everything hooked up as it should be. Again, you're going to need your hard drive and disk drive looking something like this. You're going to need to have your hard drive hooked up to either the Y adapter if you used one, or you're going to need it powered before you turn on your Xbox, and then you can continue on. So let's go ahead, hook this up to our TV and continue with the rest of this tutorial. Alright, so now as you can see, we're at the Xbox. It is turned on, and what I'd recommend doing is wait a few minutes for this. So just turn on your system, let it sit at the dashboard. If you're unsure how long to wait 5 minutes at minimum. And then what you want to do is, once a few minutes have passed, in this case, again, let's say 5 minutes, what you're going to need to do is perform that hot swap. So very carefully, but somewhat fast as well too, unplug the IDE ribbon cable from your DVD drive and plug it into your second hard drive. So I just finished doing that, went over to my system, swapped it over, and I got it down to 2 seconds. So it's not too hard to do. But what you need to do now, once all that is done, is go to Applications, launch Chimp Loader. So once it loads up, it's going to tell you to please connect the slave hard drive and press A. If you're using a IDE based hard drive, look at the sticker on your hard drive and it will tell you where to connect the jumper. You should either set it to slave or set it to cable select. Most of the time, just keep it on cable select because the cable is going to choose that. My hard drive is on cable select, but if you're using one of those SATA adapters, you need to make sure your jumper is set to slave before doing all of this. So once all that's done, you can press A. When it says press enter to activate this console, press the A button on your controller. And here you now need to go down and you can use the D-pad on this and press A to accept something and press the X button to select something when it comes to different choices. So for this, go down to Softmodded Xbox and press A. We're going to say that is correct. And it's going to tell us here, just read this, to not unlock the master hard drive. Just keep that in mind. Do not ever unlock the master hard drive. Press yes. And now click on Scan Physical IDE Drives. So press A on here. And as you can see, this is what you should be getting. So my master drive, that is the default hard drive that came with this Xbox, just the 10GB hard drive. And in the slave drive part, you can see my Western Digital 160GB hard drive. The Xbox drive, the 10GB one, is locked. The Western Digital one is unlocked, and that is as expected. So press OK. Now go to clone from master to slave, press A. 2 is going to be selected by default. If not, go down to 2, press X. Just a note on here, full disk should only be used if you're cloning from the same size hard drives, so like a 10GB to a 10GB, but since we're going from a 10GB to a 160GB, we're going to use option 2 and press A. For here, this is what partitions you want to clone. So by default, the regular Xbox hard drive has C and E partitions. X, Y, and Z don't matter right now. Those are cache drives. If you have a upgraded hard drive, let's say you did this and you just want to clone it again, you might have an F drive or a F and a G drive, depending on this. If you're just doing a stock hard drive though, just do C and E and press A. Now here, this is how you can choose what you would like your partitions set up as. So most of the time, let's say if we go to a 80GB drive, this first option is just fine. But if you're doing something bigger, like let's say a 1TB, at that point you can choose all these other options. So what I'm going to choose is I'm going to say F occupies all available space. Now it is recommended if you're putting in a huge drive here, for example. To be honest, right off the top of my head, I don't know the hard drive limitations of a soft-modded Xbox, but I know for Xboxes in general, for hard-modded ones, it's not recommended to go over a terabyte per partition. So for this, I'm again just going to a 160 gig drive, so I'm going to have it so that F is going to be the rest of my storage. So I selected that, press X on it, and then press A. Now confirm format. If everything's good, say yes. It's going to format your slave hard drive. And at this point, once that is all done, it's going to begin the cloning process. Let's just wait here. So there we go. We didn't have to wait all too long, but it's now going to start cloning your drives. So all you need to do is wait here. It's going to clone each of your partitions and set up everything. Just wait a few minutes for this to finish. So for a default hard drive that really doesn't have too much on it, it took me less than 10 minutes here. At the end, it should ask you if you want to lock your slave hard drive. You absolutely want to say yes to this. It should tell you the slave hard drive was locked successfully. Press OK, and the final way to check that is to go to Scan Physical IDE Devices, press A on that, and both of these should say Locked Security Level High. If so, then congratulations, your new hard drive has been imaged over and it should work. So press OK, go to Other Options, go down to Shutdown, and press OK on this. Now once it shuts down, unplug your Xbox from all power, remove the old hard drive, hook up the new hard drive in its place, and turn your Xbox back on. I'm going to show you the final result here. So once you fire up your Xbox with the replaced hard drive, congratulations, this is what you should be seeing. If you look at the top left hand corner of the screen, my C and E drives look normal, but my F drive has all the extra space here. So even to double verify that, what I can do is go into Settings, go to Storage, and check this out. That is the Western Digital drive. It is locked. Don't ever touch that on a soft-modded Xbox. And your C, D, or E and F drives here are all set up. F, of course, has all the extra stuff, and X, Y, and Z drives are looking about as they should because they are the cache drives. So congratulations, that's about it. If you are not having luck with this booting up, make sure you've also set up your settings accordingly. So if you have a IDE hard drive and you change the jumper to slave, make sure you change it to either master or cable select. If you're using a SATA adapter and you change the jumper to slave, make sure you change that jumper to master and try again. But if everything works, then congratulations, you should now have a upgraded original Xbox, which is still soft-modded, has all of your settings, saves, applications, like here, all that fun stuff. And on top of that, it also should have all this extra storage, so you can add in more games, emulators, application homebrew, whatever you want to do. Anyways, that is about it for this tutorial. So if you enjoyed this video and it helped you out, a like would absolutely be appreciated. If you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well too. And to finish this off, I actually have a question for you all. At this point, if you followed along, you should now have a spare and lonely 8 or 10 gigabyte hard drive. It is still locked to your system, so I would not recommend unlocking it unless you do plan to do a hard mod on your system, which honestly I do prefer hard mods over soft mods any day, but you know, this is for a soft modded Xbox here specifically. So I wouldn't recommend unlocking it, but I would also kind of recommend keeping it as a backup, but not sure how much you're going to need it as a backup. It all depends. My question to you all is, what would you all do with that spare 8 or 10 gigabyte hard drive, or what are you planning to do once you have that out of your Xbox and you have a nice, shiny, new, or at least newer and bigger hard drive installed? Let me know in the comments section down below. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario, signing off real this time. Later, everyone.